Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I was reading, but I can't remember. There's 3 things. Like it had to be wet, can't be uprooted. And what was the third thing?
If it's still connected, it can't be. I don't know about the third thing. All I know is if it got water on it, after connected, it's susceptible.
Liquids, right?
It's susceptible. Yeah, any one of the 7 liquids. That's right.
And what was the third thing?
I don't know. If someone unclean touched it, I'm not sure. All I know is usually one of the 7 liquids. That's why we're required to wash our hands. So, but my rabbi, my Rosh Hashiva gave an advice. He says if you just dry the fruit, so then you're good. Some people are very strict, and they will wash their hands without a blessing before. But if it's if you can dry it, then you can, because who knows where the situation you're in. You can't always wash your hands.
Before we start,
Yes.
could you explain this sentence for when your judgments are against the land, the inhabitants of the world learn righteousness?
Ki kasher mishpatecha la'aretz, tzedek lamdu yoshvei sevel. Okay, when your judgments are in the land, so and all of the people
in the land.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not against the land.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about where that translation came from.
For my
In other words,
for my not Tikkun, the Tanakh.
The Art Scroll or somebody else.
So.
So I have to look in the commentary why they say that.
La'aretz in that context can mean in the land, brought to the land. So when
But it could be.
la'aretz,
Listen, simply said,
that
sometimes
you
you learn righteousness when Hashem has to do things, right?
Right.
In other words, if you don't keep Shemitah,
Right.
if you don't keep the sabbatical years, you get thrown out.
Oh. Okay.
So you go, okay, it's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah.
You'd rather learn it a bit smart with a better way.
But Naviu,
Nadav and Avihu, by the way, I'm glad that you mentioned it, since we'll start this. Nadav and Avihu, as we know, they died in last week's Parsha. Just to give you, since we're in a class in Reincarnation, they were the eldest of the 5 sons of Aaron, and of Aaron, the brother of Moses. What? I'm sorry, 4 sons of Aaron. See, I don't know where I am.
I thought you said that. Sorry.
In any case, we know that they died, right? And there's like 5 reasons it brings down in the Zohar why they died, and the commentaries. All the commentaries bring down different reasons why they had a decree to die.
So now we're going to find out your reason.
Well, no, I string them all together. I'm the guy who puts them together, and I saw in a statement of a Kabbalist named by the Leshem, Rabbi Eliashuv, basically they were trying to force the redemption. There's a thing about you're not supposed to force the redemption. Okay?
Moses tried to do that.
When did Moses try to do that?
Entered the land of Israel. He asked God, I don't know how many hundreds of times, and God said, no.
414 prayers Moses made,
Yeah, stop asking.
but he didn't do an action to try to force the redemption. Okay? An action to force the redemption as opposed to a prayer. Prayer you can pray as all you want to for the redemption. We're supposed to, now more than ever.
And what
2. So the 5 reasons Brie brings down, they weren't married.
Right.
They drank wine. They didn't ask Moses what to do, right? Literally, they brought a strange fire from outside in, right? And then they didn't have all the clothes. They were missing a beged, a certain garment, right? All of them really are strung and can be under one root, which is they tried to force the redemption. Trying to bring an outside fire in, they thought this day that the temple, finally this fire came down from heaven. Everybody was like, the machine works. We're like, woo! You understand Texas style? We got it working. It's like we crank 7 times. Moses crank, flip the carburetor,
So
crank.
God
Finally, the 8th time, Aaron tried, and then boom, we got it. The machine, the Shekhinah, the divine presence. We got the Sinai experience in our pocket, right?
Aaron didn't force it.
No, actually, it didn't work for Aaron.
No, Moses had to pray.
Right, Moses, like Aaron says, why did you make me do this? Don't you understand what's going on here? I'm getting really embarrassed because it's not working.
So Moses prayed with Aaron.
Exactly. They went into the tent and then they came out. They blessed the people and then the fire came down.
So you're saying the reason they died is because they try to force God down?
So drinking wine, first of all, one of the opinions that they drank wine was because that was according to one opinion, that was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Wine. Yes, it was.
Okay.
Actually, you get intoxicated. That's why Noah, as soon as he came out of the ark, he planted grapes to drink wine. Everybody's trying to fix that fruit. We don't know which fruit it is. It's like our four-way argument. But there's an opinion that it was the grape. Okay?
Okay.
And so here they are trying to become intoxicated into a ceremony. So they're trying to rectify evil. They're trying to fix the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And all the other ways as well. They were trying to rectify creation and bring it to a different state of consciousness. A more rectified state of consciousness. The big thing is they didn't ask their Rebbe. They didn't ask Moses. Which is such a big flaw. Because they wanted to circumvent how creation works. Creation works with there's a bestower and then there's a bestowee. It has to be like that. There's a rabbi, there's a student, there's a parent, there's a child, right? There's always going to be this level of bestowal and receiving. If you don't bestow and receive, you try to move it to what we call in Kabbalah the era of the spheres, where everybody's equal. Sounds like a certain political party. Okay? So in any case, that goes against how God made the creation at this point in time. It's not supposed to go like that. Anyways, they died, and what happened was Pinchas, as we see later on, and he went in and he killed Zimri and Cosby. And he went and when he did that, he risked his soul. Because we have a rule that a rodef, a pursuer, you're allowed to kill, no questions asked. In other words, you see somebody chasing somebody, you're allowed to kill that person who's chasing. So here comes Pinchas with a spear. Where's he going? He's going to kill somebody, right? So he had a license to carry, though, but it doesn't matter, Yes, in any case, when he did that, his soul went up, and Nadav and Avihu were reincarnated into Pinchas. They came back into Pinchas. And then, of course, what happened with Pinchas is he lived for hundreds of years. He got the covenant of peace. He lived for a long, long time. Until later on, there was some kind of thing later on in the time of Yiftach, in the time of the judges, like hundreds of years later, where he was the doctor. He could have, if you know the story of Yiftach, he's the one who made a vow. The first thing that's come, he went to go battle for the Jewish people. The first thing that comes out of my house, I'm giving to you, and that was his daughter. So he's like, oh, okay, we're stuck in a situation here. We got a situation. And it's like, it's not that you could absolve the vow. You got to go to Pinchas, and Pinchas, who's like the biggest man in the generation, he's on the other side of town, like 7.5 minute walk. He could absolve your vow. Yiftach says, but I'm the king, he should come to me. Pinchas was on the other side of the town. He knew the situation. He heard the news. He says, I'm the doctor. He needs to come to me. Between this one and this one, somehow there's some kind of ego mixed in, and therefore Pinchas died. He was supposed to live forever, but he died. Pinchas comes back as Eliyahu. No. So it's really Nadav and Avihu, the two sons of Aaron, come back into Elijah the prophet. Shows you how high they were. Okay? They come back as Pinchas.
That's what I wanted to talk to you.
Elijah.
Elijah the prophet, yeah.
Do you see their deaths as a punishment?
Well,
There's something that says
in the golden calf, really, it was decreed, it was told to Moses, all four of Aaron's sons are going. Moses prayed.
Sorry, this is too much.
It's okay. Moses prayed that they wouldn't all die. And actually, it was known that at the time that this whole fire was going to come down, that two, and Moses knew, two very holy ones were going to go up. Kind of an exchange thing.
when he thought it was
Exchange.
he and Aaron.
So, yeah. Then he says, I thought it was going to be you and me. It was these two. That means they were higher than us.
So I don't hear that as a negative like I used to when I read it the first time.
Yeah, it's not a negative, except for the part of the idea, bottom line is, don't force the redemption. Moral of the story. King Solomon tried to force the redemption, marrying 1,000 wives. Tried to force the redemption. Don't try to force the redemption. It's going to come when it's going to come. We're allowed to pray, right? Rabbi Akiva and the others who went into the Pardes, right? They went into this, like, the realm of all of the 4 levels of the Torah, the exegesis, the deep levels of the Torah. They tried to make that rectification, to force the redemption, eradicate all evil. Eradicate all evil. Elevate the evil. right? And they three guys, one died, one went crazy, and the other became a heretic. Only Rabbi Akiva came out unscathed.
So what do you think about his question?
What was the question again?
If you saw it as a punishment. Because later in the next sentence or two, their son's name was sanctified.
Yes.
So how I interpret it is that no, it's not a punishment.
That's how.
Maybe I don't know.
I don't know if I could say I don't like to use the word punishment in Torah. It's a consequence.
If it was a negative consequence.
Yes, it was. It was.
So
It
why
was.
do you see it as a negative consequence?
It's a negative because they should have asked their Rebbe. They should have asked their teacher, hi, this is a great opportunity now that we can eradicate evil. It could be that if they would have asked him and he would have said, go for it, it would have been all good. But they didn't ask their Rebbe. You're not allowed, and the actual law is, if your rabbi is in your town and someone comes and asks you for to render a decision, you're not allowed to do that. Shmuel got caught doing that, and he almost died. Shmuel the prophet, Samuel the prophet.
Well, maybe if they asked their rabbi, maybe if they had asked Moses, he would have said, "Don't do it."
Yeah.
And they'd still be living.
Or it could be, no, this is it. And you asked me all the channels, and he would have made the prayer, and it would have been good, and they would have eradicated, and they would have ended all evil, and then the goodness of humanity would be now manifest to everybody. And then everybody would see God in a permanent way, and everybody would be unbelievably connected to God, and the world would reach its perfected state. It could be. I don't know.
So, and just to follow up 2 other questions that you said.
Yeah.
You said Pinchas lived to a very old age.
Yeah, about 400 years old or something.
In our, I think it's Chalk Creek prayers, we always say that you live to 70 or 80. Well, it's a song by Moses. You know that we.
Yeah.
I thought they didn't live that long after Noah.
They lived to listen. Moshe lived 120 years. It was 120 years is the standard. They lived a long time in those times, in the days of Noah. I think even after Noah.
I think Shem lived a long time too.
They all lived. There were people who lived a long time.
What-
70, 80 years is the standard. You're right, because he saw in the future and the generations and the times of King David and everything like that for all of humanity. From then on, it was going to be a 70, 80 kind of 90 cycle.
What did
10,
you
you're
say?
already like, why don't you just check out already? At 100, sorry, at 100.
Why did you say they reincarnated into Pinchas of all people?
Pinchas, as we know, Pinchas, what happened with Pinchas is he lived forever. He evolved into an angelic kind of being. He didn't die. However you look at it, what the imagery is that he went up in a chariot of fire. There was no body remaining for him to be buried, right? And he comes, and I spoke about this all the time, that anytime anybody's going to tell you good news, when they tell you that good news, it's Elijah the prophet who's dressing in you, relaying that good news. He tells all good news. He is the angelic force of good news. Okay? So he's like everywhere and on all places. It's a frequency. You understand? It's a transmission of that kind of nature.
What did
Okay?
you say about Shmuel almost died because he did something wrong?
Yes, Shmuel rendered a decision in front of Eli. Eli was there, and somebody came and asked him a halacha question, and he answered it. And when his rabbi was there, you're not supposed to do that. And so the mother of Shmuel heard about that,
Hannah.
and she rode, and she went and says, no. And Eli says, you'll have another son. I'll give you a bracha for another son. He's got to go. Okay, it's got to go. I'll give you a bracha for another son. She says, no, that's the son I prayed for. You make this happen. And so he made it happen. Okay? That's what happened. Okay? Says, don't mess with me. Okay? This is the son I prayed for. Okay? So they were able to go ahead and squeal out of that one. I don't know how, but they made it through the skin of his teeth. Okay? All right? Are we ready?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
It's all good.
So Aaron's sons, I'm just taking notes. Aaron's sons, two souls. You said reincarnated.
Nadav and Avihu reincarnated into Pinchas, who then
Just one soul.
right, but
So is it
and then they all reincarnated. I don't know if Pinchas, kind of went up, and his tikkun was done, and came Nadav and Avihu in place of Pinchas, and they carried out his life. Nadav and Avihu both together, and then of course Pinchas died, and then came down Eliyahu, who was Nadav and Avihu, reincarnated. Just to get you know the chain of who's who in the Bible. Okay?
It's two people reincarnated into one.
Absolutely. Sure, you can have that. Okay? Okay, are we ready to just go on here?
Yeah.
Okay, we're here at on page. The number is not mentioned, of course.
109.
Thank you.
Where?
109. If you can count numbers.
I wrote it in
We're on type 3 souls. Okay? We're gonna start, you see, no.
Before that?
That we did a little bit of that,
We
right?
did a little bit on 108, type 3 souls.
Right.
So
Okay.
I think you turned the page, and that's why I.
Oh yeah, you're right. We were on section 8. Skip to section 8
remember
because
we did Nefilat HaPayim.
very good. We're going to start in the field of time, get a little bit more into that. So we're on section 8 here. Entry of Ruach before final rectification of Nefesh. Okay?
I'm going to write down.
You see where it is right here?
Whatever you
Section
page.
You
8
want to
looks
call
like
this
this.
15 or 16? I'll write it in the book.
I don't know because Rabbi Wolbe's going to correct me if I wrote round 16. Okay?
So you're on
I wrote
110.
16.
You're on page 110 then.
Thank you, 110. Okay?
Section 8.
So for type 3 souls, there is a meditation in the prayer of Nefilat HaPayim that enables the coming of the Ruach even while the Nefesh has not been completely rectified. Okay? In other words, as we know from past, we know that there's type 1, type 2, type 3 souls. Type 3 souls are the old souls. They never managed to get it together, and they have to come many lifetimes to fix their nefesh, many lifetimes to fix the ruach, and many lifetimes to fix the neshama. Of course, that it could happen if a person is a type 2 soul, that we know that a person doesn't have to necessarily need a separate lifetime for each level of soul. He can actually bring it with the famous meditation that we learned by Nafshi ivisicha balayla, my soul yearns for you at night. Of course, we don't know who or what soul we are. What is it within us? Okay? We don't have an Arizal or a Baal Shem Tov who can say, you're a type 2, you're a type 3. Right? Go homework. Go home and study. Okay? So here's type 3 souls. And there's a meditation called Nefilat HaPayim, and that enables the coming of the Ruach even while the Nefesh has not been completely rectified. Okay? Let's say we're all here, we're all type 3, and we're working on our Nefesh. That's level 1. Okay, there's a way to bring down not level 2 while you're alive. Okay, so the Ruach of type 2. Okay, sorry, I missed the note there, right? Did I? Now we will explain the differences between type 2 and type 3. Until now he has explained the difference between type 1 and type 2. Then he described type 3 in general, which what we did last week. Now he will explain the difference between type 2 and type 3. The Ruach of type 2, made up of sparks from Cain and Hevel, cannot emerge from the depths of the klipot until the Nefesh, that's level 1, is rectified. Only then can they go out. Therefore, the tikkun to the Ruach cannot occur through another person, but only through the person himself. In other words, Ruach, once the person's nefesh, let's say if he's level 2, the Ruach cannot come into another person while the person's alive, while his nefesh is walking on the face of the earth. Okay? In other words, the Ruach is going to have to come back into that very person himself. Okay? And that's what we learned last week. The nefesh goes up at night to the well of souls, and then his level 2, his ruach, will come down, ensconced in a nefesh of a ger, in the soul of a convert, but that person himself has his ruach in it. It doesn't go into another person, as we're going to see the difference in a minute. Okay? He must die. Okay? And his nefesh and ruach will afterwards come back in another body, as it was explained previously, or he can do it by himself with the kavana. That means the meditation of Nafshi ivisicha balayla, my soul has desired you at night. After the nefesh is rectified, it will leave, and the ruach will come by itself to become rectified, as mentioned earlier. And it is likewise with the neshama. Okay, so that's type 2. Type 2, it has to be that given person. It's restricted to that person. However, The sparks of type 3 have a different ability. Although they cannot achieve all levels in one lifetime, they can achieve tikkun using the proper kavanah during the prayer of tachanun. Tachanun prayer, as we spoke a little bit last time. Okay, here. In other words, the souls of type 3 can grow from nefesh to ruach in one lifetime using the proper kavanah during the tachanun prayer. So the prayer of tachanun, which is literally called supplications, is recited most weekdays during the morning and afternoon prayers. It's right after the Shemona Esrei. And if you're in a congregation, there's a repetition. After the prayer leader does the whole repetition of the entire 18 benedictions, then there's a prayer right after that. Okay? And it's called tachanun, or supplications. And here there's another word for it. Okay? The word tachanun literally means supplications. It is a request for forgiveness of sins. In some communities at this time, it is customary to place one's forehead on the arm for a portion of this prayer, like one who is distraught and looking for forgiveness. Okay? The actual term the Rav uses in this text is called nefilat apayim, which literally means falling on the face, but really apayim is faces. Okay? I don't know why they translate it loosely as falling on the face. Okay? You know, in Israel, if they ask you, if they ask each other in Israel, they go, well, how's it going? And if the guy's not going through good times, he says, ala panim, which means on the faces. Okay? Basically, on the face. Okay? Really, what we're not supposed to say. That we're supposed to say, Baruch Hashem, no matter what. Okay? Thank God, no matter what. Okay? But some people do say that, so then you shouldn't be... So it literally means falling on the face or falling on the faces. And this is a common nomenclature of the prayer as well, nefilat apayim. However, since tachanun is more commonly known terminology these days, that is the term used in the translation. Okay? So it was customary that the person who was praying would fall or prostrate on his face during this prayer. Literally. Fall. Literally face down. Okay? It used to be way ancient. You're talking like temple times. Okay? That a person would completely prostrate.
It's like Yom Kippur. It's only time.
Only Yom Kippur, you only get like those 5 sections, and on Rosh Hashanah 1. You get one opportunity.
But you're
right?
saying in this supplication.
Every single time, man. They would just go fall on the face.
Not today.
No. It's dangerous, as a matter of fact, my Rav told me. Okay? He even says, I'm going to skip to the chase, as I always do, as opposed to this falling on the face thing, you have to always notice that it says that you have to have a covering, first of all, on your arm. Either use your talus, piece of paper, something, because the technique is really to take the forehead and touch it on the arm. And it has to be whatever opposite arm that your tefillin is on. If I put tefillin on this arm, most people put tefillin on their left arm, correct?
Correct.
So it's the right arm, okay? I put tefillin on this arm, so it's this arm, okay? But my father-in-law says, don't touch the forehead to the arm. Shh. It's all. Everybody knows it now. It's out.
The prayer book says left arm.
Left arm because, really?
It's
I
backwards.
have a minion every day, and the book they use...
Probably a mincha.
Insurance.
Mincha?
It's mincha.
Mincha, yeah, because mincha, you don't have tefillin on.
Right.
Really, it should be the left arm, okay, because left is din and it's judgment, okay? But it happens to be because you have tefillin on in the morning, so you have to switch. So you switch. You do the switch. The switch can be
Isn't the
done.
tefillin supposed to be closer to the heart? How come
Yeah, but
do it on
you
the
have it
side?
all over your arm and your
I know,
hand.
but you do it on the opposite side.
I do because I'm a lefty. If I'm a lefty,
So
if I
you're
write
not
with
as
my
close
lefty,
to the heart, I understand.
if I do it with a lefty, so according to the law, you put it on the left arm.
Right.
But the Sephardim and the Kabbalists hold. Are you lefty? No, you're
No,
not.
I'm not.
Okay, you lefty? Lefty?
You have
Lefty?
dextrocardia?
No.
No.
Maybe he does.
I'll just tell you right now what the Mekubalim, and I saw it way later, the Kabbalists hold, even if you're a lefty, and you write with your left hand, and you're going to put it on this arm, you should put it on this arm afterwards. And people do that. The Kabbalists do that. The Sephardim do that. Rabbi Masri, I saw him, he does that.
You don't do.
I do it.
Oh, you do?
I switch at the end. At the end of all the prayers, just before Aleinu, I'll switch to make sure that it's on this arm, because that's in alignment with all of the cosmic spheres and the cosmic realms.
So I have a silly question. Why don't you just do it to begin with?
No, because there's a law I don't mess with the laws. The Ramah, Moshe Israelis, and the law books bring down a person who's a lefty puts it on the opposite arm. Okay? Because you have to put it on the weaker arm. There's a whole thing about that. Okay?
So why do you switch again? I missed.
I switch because it has to be in alignment with the cosmic realm. And the cosmic realm, we're using colorful imagery and borrowed terminology. Don't get mixed up with this, okay? God does not literally put on tefillin, okay? But the language of the Gemara asks, what's in the parchment of God's tefillin? Would you believe it? They ask such a question. You know what's in his tefillin? And they answer. What's written? What parchment? It's not Shema Yisrael. That's for us. But God has tefillin, okay? He doesn't have body parts. He doesn't have a head. Whatever. Just work with us, okay? It's cosmic. It's in a realm that we cannot perceive. But it says, it asks, what's in God's? What parchment? What is it right?
What's their answer?
Mi ka'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz. Who is like the Jews, one nation in the land? And we say it on Mincha every week at Shabbos on Mincha. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz. In other words, it's God's endearment, his statement of endearment.
This comes from the rabbis. It comes from where? Where is this?
Moses. Moses saw the tefillin of God. He saw God's tefillin. He saw the knot at the dot at the back of the head. Don't ask. There's no body parts, and God forbid person should ever get anthropomorphic. But this is called borrowed terminology. One thing in Kabbalah you have to understand: we don't know what's going on up there, but we have to borrow terminology. And then when God willing, we get there, we'll go. Okay, makes sense. We'll see in a cosmic realm. Okay, that's how it translated. Okay, this is what it means: the energies or the cosmic forces in the upper realms. Okay.
Okay.
Now I forgot where I was. Thank you. Okay, totally. Anyways, so the reason why I will put tefillin on is because you have to be in alignment. It's an alignment. Everything about the Torah and mitzvahs is an alignment. Torah is a technology of the soul. It's how to properly get yourself in the wavelength, in the frequency, in the alignment, okay, of the upper realms. Okay?
You were at the line. It was once customary.
Okay. It was once customary that the person who was praying would fall and prostrate his face during his prayer. That means total face down. Okay? At that time, he would meditate that he was entering into the lowest realms, the realms of the klipot, to extract from there the remnants of holy sparks on their way to rectification. In other words, it's an unbelievable moment there. It's after Shmona Esrei. You see, if you really understand what Shmona Esrei is, the silent prayer, it's so gewalt. I hate to use the Yiddish word, right? Gewalt, right? A person has to get himself into an unbelievable state where God is bestowing all of these things. When you're saying the word Baruch, okay, people don't know what the word Baruch is. They bless it. Okay, it's the best translation they could come up with. Believe me, if Rabbi Moshe Weinberg said, you have to go with it because that's the best translation, but there's deeper meanings behind the word Baruch. You know that? Right? One is source. You are the source. Baruch atah, you're the source. You're the source. Source, you are the source, God. Baruch atah. But the other real deeper understanding of the word Baruch is tosefet v'ribui, which means addition, more. When you go Baruch, you are actually drawing more of God's light into this realm. Okay? It's not so bizarre, but when you think about it, Baruch, your words are actually bringing about the expression of God's infinite light into this realm. It's that powerful, the word Baruch. Okay? And the interesting thing is the word, and I never shared this with anybody, interesting, if you look at the words Baruch, which means addition and increase, really that's what it means. Addition and increase. When you think about it, addition, increase. Addition, increase. That means if I'm asking for more of, The premise is he's already there. It's already happening. When you're saying these prayers, you have to be in the total state as if all of these prayers that you're saying, you're uttering, are happening. They're already happening. It's already here, right here and now. All of those blessings of whether you healing everybody, right? God ruling the world, bringing the redemption, right? All of those things. Tshuva, going back, everything, everybody has knowledge. You have to put yourself in the state as if it's happening right then and there, and you're just going more of. That's what Baruch means. So in other words, after you go through all of these 18 blessings, and finally you reach Sim Shalom, which is like, oh my gosh, God, you're so amazing. Peace. Baruch Ata Hashem Mavarech et Amo Yisrael, right? Bashalom. What else can you do in such a face of such goodness? What else do you do? In the face and the experience of such goodness. Now, this is a training, but obviously they didn't really train us very good. That this is what you're supposed to be doing when you're doing the standard daily prayers. They didn't tell us, you got to get yourself into this state as if it's happening right now. Because if you did that, then you'll really be in the experience of like you experiencing God's unbelievable bounty and unbelievable blessing. Of course you'll fall on your face because you really didn't realize God is that good. If you really come to realize God is that perfect, God is that great, of course the person would fall on their face. Okay? Because it's that great. So the idea here is, of course, of here we want more of. So we fall on our face in order to what? We want to bring everything is coming to its completed state. So we want to go down into the klipot to extract from there the remnants of the holy sparks on their way to rectification. In our days, this practice is considered too dangerous because the soul of the one who is praying may get caught there in the dark realms. Okay? I don't know how. Okay? I don't. Because don't forget, we only do this how many times a year, right? You came a little late. Therefore, at the most, in some communities, people place their forehead upon their arm. In other communities, the prayer is merely recited in a sitting position. The Sephardic synagogues sit. They do not do this because my rabbi says it's dangerous. So what can you do if you're in an Ashkenaz synagogue and they're doing this or this, right? So you want to be you don't want to separate yourself from the community. That's forbidden to do. So you want to be kind of like, don't stick out. So you'll go like this, but you don't touch your forehead to the arm. But you go like this, you look like what everybody else is doing, but don't touch it. Because once again, that's that realm of you're going too much into the dark. You're going to drag yourself down, and it could be you can get stuck there. Okay, in your mentality, if you really do it right, halavai, we do it right. Halavai, you'd have a think of, oh my gosh, where am I in relationship to all this blessing? Really, what are my deeds? What are my deeds in relationship to God's goodness, the lowliness? You want to just literally go down. Okay, don't go down. Don't go down too much. Okay, okay. Okay, so during the Tachanun, falling on the face prayer, they can meditate that they are extracting their ruach from the depths of the klipot. Even if the nefesh is not yet fully rectified to ascend in the sod, the secret of what we call Maim Nukvin. We've explained what Maim Nukvin is, the feminine waters. In other words, everything's going up. In other words, God, you're rectifying everything. You're in the process of rectifying everything. And it's as if we're already there already. Okay? We are rescuing the princess who is in the golden mountain and the pearl castle. Okay? The subject of Maim Nukvin has been explained somewhat in chapter 3. Okay? It's the feminine waters. We are elevating feminine waters, which means basically our whole attitude of state of mind is, God, you are all there is. There's only to connect to you. And the rite of prayer practiced by the Ari and consequently adopted by all Sephardic Jews and some of the Hasidim, this psalm is in place of Psalm 6 as the basic text of the Tachanun prayer. In other words, in an Ashkenaz siddur, it's Psalm 6. Okay, it's a different prayer. The Ari uses Psalm 25. Psalm 25 has a different wording. Psalm 6, right, it happens to be, Baruch Hashem, I have the Metoch Midvash. He has a siddur there, right? Has the letters actually of Ashurit script, which has all the crowns, which is really cool, and he has Kavanot in there. It's a great siddur. So he brings both, actually, because many Hasidim will bring Psalm 6, and that's the classic one in any Ashkenaz shul. You'll see, Rachum v'chanun hatasi lefanecha, right? Gracious and compassionate, I have sinned before you. Hashem malei rachamim rachem alai. Hashem, full of compassion, have compassion upon me. V'kabel tachanuna, and receive my supplication, and then you finish with the rest of it. However, in the Arizal, in the Sephardic synagogue, it's Psalm 25. Psalm 25 starts with a different wording, okay? It says, David, to David, Elech Hashem nafshi esai. To you, God, nafshi, my nefesh, esa, I lift. Okay? So it's a completely different psalm. That's what made me switch. When after I read this, I'm going to switch. Okay? And you know something? And I was thinking, wow, how come those Ashkenaz, they don't get it? But then again, I read more and I realized maybe it is better to stick with the Ashkenaz, as you're going to see soon. Okay? Okay. We're going to wonder. We're going to leave you wondering today. Okay? But you just have to know this Tachanun prayer, there's two different psalms that are said, depending. His Ruach, so therefore, what is he doing? He's lifting his Ruach out of the Klipot. His Ruach then can come during his lifetime into the body of another person who is born in combination with, of course, the Nefesh of the Ger, because the Ruach, who's hanging out in the Garden of Eden, has a calling to come down, got the memo, right? Got the invite, right? Wants to come down, grabs the Nefesh, the soul of a convert, ensconces with it, and then comes down into a newborn person. Okay? If he merits it, then it is possible to draw it, his Ruach, into his own son that is born to him. This is far out and funky. Because we do know from another place, actually, we did bring down from a writing of the Baal Shem Tov that is brought down by his student, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, who brings down that, all of us around us, our soul is extending to every single thing around us all the time. In other words, your objects, the things that you own, and your employees and your animals, your pets are an extension of your nefesh, your lower soul. Your wife, right, is your ruach, your spirit. And your children are your neshama. In other words, if you have a problem with your children, somebody did email me a question, they have a problem with their children, then the issue is with their neshama. It's your own neshama. It's a reflection of your own neshama, and therefore you have to correct your thoughts, because neshama is the realm of thoughts. If a person has a problem with their children, okay? If you have a problem with your wife, then you have to check out your speech. If you have a problem with your machinery breaking down, your computers, your cars, or your employees getting uppity on you, okay? So then you have a problem with your deeds. Interesting, huh? Something to check you out, just to reflect back to you all the time. Yeah.
The children, you said you have a problem with children. That's the ruach.
Well, here he says it's ruach, but we know from another place that it's your neshama. So the only answer I have for that is I'm not sure I have an answer. I thought I had an answer.
Can you tell me the wife and the children? What do they represent?
Wife is ruach, spirit.
Spirit. Okay.
Children is your soul.
Neshama.
Neshama.
Right.
So here I'm not clear on what he's saying, that you can actually draw a person's own ruach, his blemished ruach, into his children. Okay? Should be your neshama. Okay? It could be maybe in relationship to, usually the way that classically that they answer this is that in the ruach, there is a subcategory. In other words, in ruach itself has all 5 levels of ruach, of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, achida. So it could be what's drawn into your son is the neshama of the ruach, something like that. In other words, it's a subcategory. Usually that could be explained. Or it's the neshama, but it's the ruach of the neshama. Whatever. There's subcategories, and it breaks down into subheadings. In any case, the Ruach, as opposed to level 2 soul, we talked about section type 2. Type 2 souls, the Ruach has to come into that body to get rectified. The very person's very own person. Here, the person in level 3 soul, right? Type 3 soul, the Ruach that he's bringing through this prayer, this meditative prayer, is coming into someone else's body. And if he merits, it could be his own children. Okay? So here, therefore, even while the person is rectifying his own nefesh in his own body, his Ruach is simultaneously being rectified in the body of another person who has the nefesh of a ger, or if he merits it, within the body of his own son. Okay? Concerning this nefesh of the ger, see special section 111. We did that already. Note that the nefesh of the ger, within his ruach ensconced within it, with his ruach ensconced within it, is entering into the body of a Jew, perhaps even his own son. That's why you got to be nice to all gerim, okay? Because they're doing you favors, okay? Through the kavana of nefilat apayim, only the ruach can be withdrawn from the klipa before rectification of the nefesh is completed. So this process of drawing out a higher level of soul before the nefesh has completed its tikkun only applies to the level of ruach. Under no circumstances can the neshama be drawn from the depths of the klipot until the nefesh and the ruach have been completely rectified, and those people who had the nefesh and ruach must die. Afterwards, the neshama can go out into a gilgul to achieve tikkun. Okay? So that's how it goes for type 3 souls. You can get your ruach, you can get your nefesh, you can get your ruach, but even once they fix those, nefesh and ruach, the person has to leave this world in order to get neshama. Now, here we're going to get to section 9. Okay? Are we all there?
Yeah.
Section 9, dangers associated with nefilat apayim meditation. When the ruach is drawn down during the nefilat apayim meditation while the nefesh is still completing its tikkun, then there are dangers for the one who has the nefesh. Here we get into something quite bizarre. There is yet another thing to be clarified regarding this matter of ruach and the nefesh that was just discussed. Through the nefilat apayim kavana, they can both come into the world in separate bodies to achieve tikkun. Nevertheless, these two can be judged against each other. Which one of them will overcome the other one? What are we talking about? In other words, it becomes like almost a competition. Okay? The ruach, level 2, comes into a body while the nefesh still inhabits a different body. This is an advantage because it allows them to achieve tikkun at the same time. Save time always is a good idea. Nevertheless, this advantage could turn into a detriment. The two of them may be judged against each other to see which one will overcome the other. One overcoming the other? What are we talking about? Aren't they both working together? Right? Shouldn't be one huge happy family? What are we talking about? A nefesh overcoming a ruach? Or a ruach overcoming a nefesh? So he explains here. Okay? The Rav does not reveal explicitly, thank you, what turns this advantage into detriment, what causes this judgment. However, it seems from the wording at the end of this section and from the next section about King David that the cause of the judgment is some serious sin committed by one of these two people. Okay? Here's how we explain it could be the detriment to one or the other. It's almost like a Highlander kind of thing. You guys don't know what Highlander is. Okay? Yeah, thank you. Okay? If the person who received the ruach, let's say, completed his tikkun prior to the person with the nefesh, let's say you got the nefesh. Great. Awesome. You're fixing your nefesh. And you have this special intention in mind that you're going to go ahead and bring out your ruach from the depths of the klipot. And your ruach is now somewhere in this world, maybe even your children, or not your children, but he's somewhere in the world. So you're both fixing together him in his place, your ruach in his place, in some body who was born, and then your nefesh, okay? If the ruach completes his tikkun prior to the person with the nefesh, then he becomes the main one. Only one. Well, how's it go? What was the line there? Only one. There can only be one. Okay? At the time of the resurrection of the dead, the nefesh and the ruach will both enter the body of the one that had the ruach. This is kind of like scary. That means the person who had the nefesh will not come back in the resurrection. Okay? The resurrection of the dead, that means that body will be gone forever. And the person who comes up with the nefesh and ruach will be body number 2. Okay? However, if the one who possessed the nefesh finished his tikkun first, then I do not recall what was said. Thank you. Listen to what he says here. He does this all the time. I don't remember. Yeah, right.
Is that for
Okay. Yes, that's right. The author, Rav Chaim Vital, may he rest in peace, is writing as if he does not remember what his teacher, the Arizal, said to him regarding such a case, where the possessor of the nefesh finishes his tikkun before the possessor of the ruach completes his. Thank you. He's really hiding. Okay? He doesn't remember. Okay? You know, the story they bring down, about the Arizal and Rav Chaim, Rav Chaim Vital was, he was teaching him the Arizal, and he wasn't, Rav Chaim Vital wasn't actually chapping, he wasn't grasping. So he brought him down to the Connect, that's the Sea of Galilee, and he brought him to a certain place in the Sea of Galilee, and he goes, there, drink the water from over there. That's where the rock of the well of Miriam is. The water's coming out from there. And then he drank the water, and his mind became opened completely. Saw everything, right? We're still looking for that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, wouldn't it? He grasped everything, okay? However, it seems to me, he always has to leave you hanging, that I heard that during the resurrection of the dead, they arise into the body that possessed the nefesh, since he became the main one. Okay? In other words, in the case, there's 2 kind of variations. Who gets fixed first? Does the ruach get fixed first? Or does the nefesh get fixed first? And now it's a battle of the bodies. Which body will rise at the resurrection? Okay? So, of course, it says, most likely, right? I heard, it seems to me, that if the nefesh got fixed first, so the nefesh gets up, and the ruach doesn't. Meaning that second guy who had the ruach, who was born with the nefesh of the ger, that body does not get up at the resurrection.
But if the ruach and nefesh are in the same body, then there's no problem.
Yeah, but that's only a type 2 soul, we learned,
Right, okay.
right? This is talking about type 3 souls, the old souls, so therefore it's a battle of the bodies. Okay? There is another important distinction regarding judgment of the person who took ruach during the Filat Apayim before the tikkun of the nefesh. It seems that the Rav is dealing with the last case. One person had the nefesh, and another had the ruach. The one who had nefesh completed his tikkun before the other one. Consequently, he will achieve both nefesh and ruach in the time of the resurrection of the dead. In addition, something else may also occur in their actual lifetimes. Okay? In such a case, if the person merits through his actions, he can draw all the good of the ruach to himself and leave the other evil. Here's like something really bizarro. Okay? This is kind of hard to go ahead and navigate this. Okay? In other words, it sounds like what happens here is if the nefesh gets fixed, wherever that ruach is, it's going to go ahead and move on over. Back to, sucked back into the nefesh to be part of the nefesh. And as a result of this vacuum, that second person who was born, nefesh ger, ruach, everything's going fine. All of a sudden, what happened? Okay? And here it's leave the other evil. It's sounds like all of a sudden the dark side, it just envelopes that second person. Okay? Doesn't sound cool. Okay?
Envelops.
Something like that. Well, nature abhors a vacuum, we say. And the essence of the creation is darkness. That's why when our souls leave our bodies at night, and we come back the next morning, the darkness that was invaded our bodies while we were sleeping, and our souls come back in the next morning into our bodies. So the darkness is pushed out to the extremities, the hands and the feet. So that's why it's a big mitzvah that a person has to actually ritually wash his hands as soon as he wakes up in the morning. The best is, of course, if it's right next to your bed, of course. And the next thing is at least there's a roof that allows you to get to the bathroom to wash your hands. Ritual, 3 layers, because there's 3 klipot, right? Ruach Sa'ara, Anan Gadol, Eish Mitlakachat, okay? A, B, and C. Each one has a male and a female, okay? So you got to do 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 to get 3 layers off the hands. You're not allowed to touch any orifice until you've done that. And definitely not touch any food and then eat the food. Because that negativity is going on whatever. It's still on the hands. And if you don't do that, then it comes out into your crawls up through your arms and then into your head, and then you become part of the dark, an agent of the dark forces, okay? Or you just stay asleep. It's like taking the blue pill, okay? Blue pill. We all know the blue pill? Blue pill? He knows blue pill, okay?
Yep.
In other words, you're not going to hear a truthful thought when it hits you. When it smacks you in the head, you'll still be asleep, okay? So that's why, okay, nature abhors a vacuum. So here, if the ruach vacates that second person, what's going to be left with that second person? There's going to be a level of what he calls evil, or ra. Now, ra is an interesting word. I have to look up in the Hebrew here. Ra, if you switch the letters of ra is spelled Reish Ayin, right? Reish Ayin? Ra, right? If you switch the letters, you have the word er. Er, Ayin Reish, which means awaken. Basically, the whole difference between evil and not evil is, are you awake? Or are you sleeping? Okay? Going again along, going in your normal hypnotic state. How many times a day are we in hypnotic state, right? Right? Going to the hypnosis, the sleep state, not really focusing, not really concentrating, right? So that's where the evil can slip in. Okay? Be careful. So in other words, the one who had the ruach will lose all his merits to the one who has completed nefesh, and he will be left with evil only. It's like, what happened? Note that the Rav writes that this will happen if the person who has nefesh merits through his actions. In the next sentence, we will see that it is also contingent upon the one that had the ruach whose deeds made him evil. Don't forget, we said he did allude here. How can one outweigh the other? How can we lose? Right? That's if one, I believe one of them does an evil deed. I think he says that, really, right? Yeah. How does it turn to his detriment? Right? A serious sin. If the person did a serious sin, of course, then he's going to be left. Even though he has a ruach, if the person did a serious sin, so all of a sudden, that element, he loses. So then he's left with total darkness. Okay? You had a question?
That means he can never progress?
Well, no. Hashem never abandons anybody. There's always a way to fix.
Well, the next sentence says...
Okay, let's see. Okay? Furthermore, it seems that this is only an example, and the opposite case is also possible. In other words, if the one who had ruach finishes his tikkun first, he will draw to himself all the good and merits of the one who had that nefesh. The latter, who had nefesh, will be left without any good or merit, and without any portion in the resurrection of the dead.
So that
Okay?
was my question. What happens to that soul?
So he doesn't get up at a resurrection of the dead. It's very scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
It almost makes you like, why should we do this Nefilas Apayim prayer in the first place? Maybe I'll stick with the Ashkenaz shul. Okay? Yes, it does. It's like, why should I enter into this? Right? Game of death, Game of Thrones. Okay?
Coming soon.
Because really the body is the throne, right? Okay? This is the sod of the verse. Let the evil of the wicked be finished and establish the righteous. In other words, the evil is going to stick to this, and the established will be on this, whether it's nefesh or ruach nefesh. One whose deeds make him evil will take completely all the evil to himself, and this is what it means. Let the evil of the wicked be complete. It's interesting. We see this also in kind of another place. we have handed down in tradition. We had our forefathers, Abraham and Yitzchak. Abraham, he was considered to be, he brought down a light of God, an expression of God that was in such divine love. He was the ultimate love guru, all over the planet known. Everybody came to him. Everybody flocked to him. He had a trail of converts following him. He was the ultimate master of love. God is love, and he taught love. And now as he had a fallout, because too much of anything is no good. His fallout was Ishmael. Ishmael was his son. Ishmael is the ultimate expression of too much love. Okay? They actually have handed down that Ishmael, that means the Arab world, was never chastised. He never took out his belt, right? Gave him a whooping. Okay? He never really did it. So therefore you get a spoiled child who thinks the entire world is coming to him. Kind of like now, right?
Right.
Islam has a right to dominate the world and kill the infidel.
So that
Okay?
means that Abraham had a problem with the Ruach.
That's an interesting thing. Let me think about that. Abraham had a problem with his ruach. Because child. No. Now I don't want to take what I told you earlier into the forefathers. Okay, I don't want to put them in that high thing. I want to say that they were on a different category altogether. But this was absolutely a necessary separation. Abraham became pure love. And then there was the fallout of love, went to Ishmael, so Ishmael took the dark side of love. You know, they say 10 portions of promiscuity were given to the world. 10 portions of promiscuity, do we all know?
Yes, we know that.
Licentiousness, is that a better word? Right?
Promiscuity is fine.
No goodness? Dirty, okay? The Arab world took 9 and left all the world to share the 10th portion. Okay? They are unbelievably, you have no idea. That's why they have to cover all the women, because they're crazy about it. They cover all the women because they know what their Arab friends are thinking if they see his wife. You understand? Because they know what they're thinking. Okay? They know, right? Every man knows what it is to go through teenage years with hormones raging. Okay? So these guys are hormones raging 24/7 all the time, 9 portions hormones raging, okay, all the time, okay? So they get into it, okay? They're full of it, okay? Don't think that they're not, okay? Sorry? So that's the fallout of Abraham, Ishmael. Now, so he's like the love. So you see how Ishmael takes the dark side of love, okay? And then we have Yitzchak. Yitzchak was the opposite extreme, the left column. The left column was Gevurah, disciplined. He was so disciplined. His relationship to God was unbelievable discipline, off the charts. His level of awe, awesomeness, and it translated into us, and we use the term that I don't like to use called fear of God, okay? But it's really an awe of God. But still, when it falls out, the fragments of that, the fallout of Isaac or Yitzchak is Esav. Esav was the first godfather. Right? Murder is our way of life. Right? Right? So, Esav was the guy who brought external fears into the entire world. He made people afraid of him. Intimidation. He used fear as a main tool. And to this day. Okay? So that's the fallout. So Yitzchak took the kosher aspects of awe of God, and Esav took the dark aspects of that. Okay? So just to understand what it's this kind of almost like what he's describing here is kind of like a fallout. Right? When there's a separation, there's going to be a vacuum, and then they're going to take the dark aspects of whatever it is, that soul here. Okay? But we're still dealing with battle of the bodies. Okay? Okay? Where am I? Someone help me. Where?
This is the sod of the verse, let the evil of the wicked be finished.
Where? Okay, this is the sod of the verse, let the evil of the wicked be finished and establish the righteous, right?
Right.
One whose deeds make him evil will take completely all evil to himself. This is what it means, let the evil of the wicked be complete. They get more bad. You know, the Ishbitzer Rebbe does bring down, I heard this stated from Shlomo Carlebach, Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach said, he saw it in the Ishbitzer Rebbe, is a Hasidic Rebbe about 150 years ago, said as we get closer to Mashiach, the good get better and the bad get worse. The good get better and the bad get worse. Okay? Now, don't tell me nowadays you're not seeing a huge polarity that is coming across, sweeping the entire earth. Okay?
That's in Daniel chapter 12.
Okay, you're going to show me that later. Okay, let me just finish here because we're running a little late. Okay. The Hebrew word yigamar from the root gamar means he will finish. The Rav is giving it here an equally plausible alternate reading, he will complete. Finish or complete, okay? Meanwhile, the righteous person whose actions have purified him takes all the good. He becomes the vacuum. Thus he is finished and totally established, as it says, establish the righteous. That's the continuation of that verse. All the good of the nefesh and ruach will go to the one doing good. All the evil that was associated with the nefesh and the ruach will go to the one doing evil. Okay? This is happening while they are alive. In addition, surely the one who has lost all his good will not arise in the time of the resurrection of the dead, because there'll be no more holy sparks left in him to resurrect. God needs a certain amount of holy sparks within that body to resurrect, and if there isn't anything remaining, that's it. Okay? A person is a combination of good and evil. Purity within klipa, shell, husk, body. Sometimes the evil is greater than the good, etc. Sometimes the evil is greater than the good. Sometimes the good is greater than the evil. In that case, all the evil that is within him must be purified until all that remains is complete good. All the evil that is within him must be purified until all that remains is complete good. Okay, he said, thus I have heard from my teacher, may his memory be blessed, though I did not merit to understand this well, and surely we didn't. Okay? However, it seems to me that it is possible for the evil associated with the nefesh and ruach to go together into the body of the one person whose actions are evil. This is kind of sad. Okay? The good of the nefesh and the ruach will go to the body of the one who has purified his actions, as mentioned before. Bottom line, you got to do tshuva. Okay? Bottom line, you better get on track. You better get on program now. Because otherwise, you don't know. Right? Somewhere in China, somebody's got your ruach and they're cranking it. Okay? You don't know. We don't know. So the thing is, you better rectify yourself as best as possible and get on the good side. Okay? So, and anyway, we'll end right here.
No, next week there's no opera. Next week.
Back to 11.
No. There's 1 week off. There's 1 week off.